If we had to pick the most pivotal year in world history after World War II, 1989 would undoubtedly top the list. We've talked about the upheavals in Eastern Europe, Romania, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia's dissolution, and today, let's turn our focus to Germany, a nation torn apart and ultimately reunited that year. On November 9, 1989, the Berlin Wall, a symbol of division for 27 years, was torn down by crowds of people, marking the end of an era. But to truly understand this moment, we need to go back to the roots of Germany's split. It all began with the Yalta Agreement, signed by the victorious Allied powers Soviet Union, the United States, and the United Kingdom after World War II. The three leaders agreed to divide Germany into 4 occupied zones, aiming to disarm and weaken the country so it could never threaten peace again. The Soviet Union took control of Eastern Germany, establishing the German Democratic Republic, GDR, or East Germany, while the US, UK, and France governed Western Germany, forming the Federal Republic of Germany, FRG, or West Germany. Berlin, Germany's former capital, was also split. East Berlin fell under Soviet rule, and West Berlin was controlled by the Western Allies. But here's the catch: West Berlin was completely surrounded by East Germany, a tiny island of Western influence in the heart of the Eastern Bloc. All supplies and people entering or exiting West Berlin had to pass through East German territory, setting the stage for future conflict. In the early post-war years, relations between the Allies were still manageable. The Soviet Union allowed limited access to West Berlin, including 10 daily trains and some highways for transporting goods and people. But this cooperation didn't last long. In early 1948, the US, UK, France, and 3 other Western nations held the London Foreign Ministers' Conference, proposing economic coordination, joint foreign trade control, and a new constitution for West Germany, effectively paving the way for its official establishment. On June 18, 1948, the 3 Western powers announced a currency reform, the introduction of the Deutsche Mark, West German mark. The Soviet Union responded swiftly, protesting on June 19, announcing plans to form East Germany and issue its own currency, the East German mark, on June 22, and on June 24, fully blocking waterways and freight traffic between West Germany and West Berlin. Only 3 land corridors remained open, in what became known as the Berlin Blockade. The Soviet Union hoped this blockade would force the Allies out of West Berlin, giving them full control of the city. West Berlin was suddenly cut off from the world, and the US briefly hesitated about whether to hold on to it. But Lucius Clay, the US military governor of West Berlin, insisted in a report to Washington. "We firmly believe that staying in Berlin is crucial to our prestige in Germany and Europe. For better or worse, it conveys American intentions." By then, the Iron Curtain of the Cold War had descended. An ideological confrontation between the US and the Soviet Union was the new normal. To prevent Berlin from falling into Soviet hands, the Allies launched the Berlin Airlift, the largest air supply operation in history. Day and night, British and American aircraft flew supplies into West Berlin. The Soviet Union dared not shoot down the planes, as that would have turned the Cold War hot. For 15 months, these flights delivered everything West Berliners needed: flour, drinking water, salt, medicine, clothing, coal, and even candy, an inspired touch. Candy didn't take up much weight or space, but it brought joy to children living through the blockade, leaving a lasting memory for those who experienced it. At its peak, the airlift delivered 13,000 tons of supplies a day, with an average of over 5,000 tons daily. The sheer scale of the operation shocked the Soviet Union. They couldn't help but wonder what would happen if those planes were carrying bombs instead of food. Meanwhile, the US imposed a trade embargo on the entire Eastern Bloc, including East Germany, inflicting heavy economic losses on the Soviet Union and its allies. In May 1949, Stalin had no choice but to lift the blockade. But the blockade's end brought a new problem for East Germany: a mass exodus of its people. Tens of thousands of East Germans fled to West Germany, most of them young, educated, and skilled teachers, engineers, doctors, technicians, and farmers. This was a brain drain and a loss of vital labor for East Germany. Between 1950 and 1960, nearly 2 million East Germans fled, an average of 180,000 a year. Why? East Germany's political control was tight, but its economy struggled. War reparations to the Soviet Union, post-war reconstruction, failed agricultural collectivization, and exclusion from the U.S.-backed Marshall Plan left many East Germans living in poverty while watching West Germany thrive. The Soviet Union initially tried to stop the flow with barbed wire along the East-West German border. But East Germans could still escape via West Berlin. By 1961, the situation was desperate. Walter Olbert, first secretary of East Germany's ruling Socialist Unity Party, secured Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev's approval to build a wall dividing East and West Berlin. To avoid alerting the West, East Germany secretly purchased prefabricated concrete slabs from West Germany and other European countries through multiple East German companies. Then, with a massive mobilization of forces 8,000 police officers, 8,000 mobile police, 10,000 militiamen, 4,000 security officials, and over 10,000 soldiers, East Germany built a 150-kilometer temporary barbed wire wall in just one day. Over the next decade, the wall was upgraded 4 times, adding anti-vehicle trenches, prison-like guard towers, searchlights, minefields, and a death strip, a cleared area tens of meters wide on the East Berlin side, leaving escapees exposed. Guards were authorized to shoot to kill anyone attempting to cross. East Germany labeled these escapees traitors, with no mercy shown. Officially, East Germany claimed the wall was to prevent Western hostile forces from infiltrating East Germany and other Eastern Bloc countries. The Berlin Wall achieved its immediate economic goals for East Germany. It stopped the population drain and eliminated the underground black market in East Berlin, where West German marks had circulated, devaluing the East German mark. With the wall blocking Western currency and goods, the East German mark recovered, and rationing was fully restored. But for young East Berliners with dreams of a better life, the wall crushed their hopes. Over 27 years, 1961 to 1989, only about 5,000 East Germans successfully crossed into West Berlin, fewer than 200 a year, or roughly 1 person every 2 days. Some escaped through sewers or tunnels, stole military armored vehicles to crash through the wall, jumped from border buildings into West Berlin, sailed across the Baltic Sea in homemade boats, or floated over in hot air balloons made from gas canisters. Tragically, at least 400 people died trying, most shot by guards. The famous phrase "please raise your gun 1 inch" originated here, a plea from some guards to spare Eska. There was one exception to the wall's restrictions: select East German writers and artists were allowed to travel to West Germany to showcase works proving the superiority of socialism. As the 1980s rolled around, the economic gap between East and West Germany was stark. East Germany, hailed as the most prosperous developed country in the Eastern Bloc, had a per capita GDP of $6,800 in 1980, higher than the Soviet Union but less than 60% of West Germany's $12,000. In West Berlin, children and young people would climb the wall out of curiosity to glimpse the other side. While East Berlin remained eerily quiet, curiosity was a dangerous luxury for East Germans. By the mid-1980s, the Soviet Union was in decline. The Chernobyl disaster, a decade of costly war in Afghanistan, Western embargoes, an energy crisis, and massive military spending, 6% of GDP in the early 1980s to compete with the U.S. Star Wars program, left the Soviet Union economically drained. When Mikhail Gorbachev came to power in 1985, he announced a shift from Brezhnev's policy of using military force to intervene in Eastern Bloc countries. The ice around the Berlin Wall began to melt. Poland was the first crack. In 1988, Polish workers led by the Solidarity trade union went on strike, forcing the government to compromise and allow Solidarity to participate in elections. In June 1989, Solidarity won 95% of the seats in the Sejm, Polish parliament, and a non-communist prime minister was appointed. This domino effect spread to Hungary, which dismantled its border fences with Austria in June 1989. Hungarians flocked to Austria to buy Western consumer goods, and East Germans followed, crossing into Austria via Hungary to reach West Germany. In just 1 month, over 10,000 East Germans fled their country. This refugee crisis coincided with East Germany's 40th anniversary celebrations. Citizens in Leipzig took to the streets to protest, with crowds growing from 2,000 to 200,000. Their slogan, "We are the people," a powerful statement that violence against the people would be a crime. Protests spread to East Berlin, forcing Ulbricht's successor, Erich Honecker, to resign. His replacement, Egon Krenz, approved peaceful demonstrations in East Berlin. On one day, 500,000 people marched in Alexanderplatz, holding signs that read 40 years is enough, privileges for all, and civil rights not just on paper. Then came the pivotal moment. An East German government spokesperson announced new immigration rules, stating that all border crossings, including those between East and West Berlin, would be open for immigration. Thousands of East Germans rushed to the 6 border checkpoints. Guards, overwhelmed, called their superiors for instructions. No one dared order a crackdown. One checkpoint commander, recognizing the inevitable, ordered guards to let people cross without inspection. The Berlin Wall, once an impenetrable barrier, became a gathering place. West Berliners climbed onto the wall first, followed by East Berliners, foreshadowing the merging of East Germany's political, economic, and social systems into West Germany. In the months that followed, East Germany's Socialist Unity Party stepped down. The East German Christian Democratic Union won elections and later merged with West Germany's Christian Democratic Union. The two countries adopted a single currency, the West German mark, with East German marks fully convertible. East Germany amended its basic law to align with West Germany's, rather than drafting a new constitution. For West Germans, East Germany's socialist legacy became a tourist attraction, drawing visitors curious to see life behind the Iron Curtain. As we look back at that moment in 1989, people from both sides standing on the Berlin Wall, gazing at the other's country, we see a nation divided by ideology but united by blood. For 27 years, the wall separated families, crushed dreams, and symbolized the Cold War's divisions. Its fall wasn't just the end of a wall, it was the end of an era of division, a testament to the universal desire for freedom and a better life. History's path may be long and winding, but in the end, it often bends toward unity and hope.